hear ye. The Trek Wars podcast is now in session. The one podcast that dares to answer the question, which is better, Star Trek versus Star Wars, by going through both franchises in chronological release order, episode by episode. I am Kenny Madison, the Star Trek contingent. With me, as per always, is the co-host with the mo-host.
Roar, Ice Age Aspen. Blah, 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 blah. Star Wars fan.
Aspen, I totally forgot. Right beforehand, you went through the library portal, the information center portal.
I know.
And your molecules have totally been converted to 5,000 years ago. And it's only if we steal a holocron that we can get the information, that we can put you back to normal smarts.
That's right. I'm dumb.
And I'm Kenny. And today we are covering all our yesterdays, the penultimate episode of Star Trek, the original series from season 3, and a Holocron Heist, the premiere episode from Star Wars The Clone Wars season 2, breaking off into a season, and I, for one, can't be happier.
What are you happy about?
Well, we're starting a new season of Clone
happy?
Wars.
I like zoned out for a second. I thought you were talking about being happy about TOS being over.
I am also. I'm very excited. I'm very excited that we are almost. I adore TOS, and also there's just a very satisfying sensation whenever TOS is just. We will be done. We will be done with it.
It's been a real
and then
journey.
there will be a new aesthetic that you will have to get used to.
Yeah, it's true. Is it the animated series?
Yeah.
So it's the same aesthetic, but animated.
No.
Okay.
Different. It's same, but different.
Incredible.
You know how, like, whenever your parents, whenever you were being driven home and you were driving by a McDonald's, you were like, I want some McNuggets. Yes. And they said, we've got McNuggets at home. Yeah. And then they served you like chicken.
just like white breast, dry chicken. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, which one is which?
I'll leave that to you. I will leave that to you. It may be a completely different metaphor from we have McNuggets at home versus like we have McNuggets at home and then they serve you like a hamburger.
Oh.
And you're like, this is not McNuggets. This is not what I was expecting.
But it's tasty.
Do I like this?
Yeah. Also maybe dry, but it's got mayonnaise on it.
But we're not here to talk about dry mayonnaise. We're here to talk about all our yesterdays versus Holocron Heist. But before we get to it, we have some pieces of correspondence to attend to.
PSs. Correspondence. Pieces. I'm doing great.
That's right.
I'm doing great. Right. I really want a hamburger.
Well, why don't you go ahead and
like a Beyond Burger. Like a Beyond Burger.
While you go ahead and order hamburger using the Patreon money, we have some comments from our Patreon from user Philiat, i.e. Joel T. Partner, the composer of our I Starship theme song.
Yeah.
The first comment is in regards to one of our episodes, the Savage Curtain versus Hostage Crisis. And the first piece of correspondence says, this post has the wrong audio attached. It's a copy of the Austin Bad Boy of Improv episode. So thank you for letting us know, Joel. We repaired that. Second piece of correspondence, also from Joel T. Partner.
You're so funny for reading that. You're like, I just want to call out a hero. Like, I just want to say.
The word hero gets used too much today. These days. It truly does apply here.
But when a hero arises,
they say that a hero can save us.
I'm not going to stand here and wait.
Speaking of not standing here and waiting, I'm going to read this thing. Also from user Joel T. Partner, Aspen has recently seen in roughly this order, informing us of the Star Trek The Next Generation episodes that Aspen has seen.
Oh my God.
Could I have asked Aspen? Sure.
Would Aspen have remembered? No.
Here are the episodes. Tapestry, i.e. the Captain Picard in the past, and also Captain Picard has a blue shirt.
So good.
Darmok and Gelada Tanagra. Captain's Holiday. What if a captain was sexy? Second Chances. What if Riker wore a yellow shirt? The Price, I believe, whenever Troy loses her powers?
No.
That's the loss.
She doesn't lose it. It's just that she meets another. She meets a guy, another Betazoid, but he is like part Betazoid, and he uses it for negotiation and like being a little stinker, I think. So,
Skin of Evil. What if someone died? Yesterday's Enterprise. What if someone came back to life? Redemption and Redemption 2. What if someone died and came back alive, had a daughter? The First Duty. What if there was a mistake? Booby Trap. What if there was a booby trap? Kenny Next Best of Both Worlds. You're darn right I did, which is on my list. Some of the ones I'm considering up next are The Drumhead.
We watched The Drumhead.
Great episode. Dynamite episode.
It was
Ensign Rowe. Aspen's going to love Ensign Rowe.
Haven't watched it yet. Yeah.
Chain of Command. Pretty darn good. Didn't want to go with those too early since they cover a lot of DS90 precursor feeling material. And that's correct because it was kind of in tandem with creating who the Cardassians were.
Yeah.
Similarly, the one O'Brien episode of The Next Generation, which I forget what the name of it is, but it introduces the Cardassians. It's a very, very good episode. And finally, from Joel T. Partner, I also know all of the movies in which Picard appears have to be off limits for self-obvious reasons.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's from Joel T. Partner. And from user Baobab Cactus, who commented on our Patreon. Oh my goodness. Thank you for saying you love me. Hee hee. I took my sweet time getting to this episode, but what a treat. Keep up the good work, both of you. Thank you so much, Baobab Cactus.
Sweet. We love it. We're having a nice time.
We love it. And we love hearing from you.
We love
hearing. We're having a nice time.
We're having a nice time.
I enjoy doing this podcast with you. I don't know if you picked up on those vibes, much like your favorite movie, Tenet. So too do I pick up on those vibes.
My favorite movie, Tenet.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I said during our Patreon. I said it's my favorite movie. I love it so much. I don't love anything else.
That's right. Sweet. And you know what else is sweet? Our two episodes this week.
Oh. Also you. I give you little kisses on your head. Yeah, they were pretty sweet. I was honestly into it.
Into it. Should we get into it?
I am into it. And I'm intuiting that you're into it as well. I'm doing so well.
What's going on, Aspen? Pull up.
I'm trying to pull up the episode information.
Sure.
But I'm trying to pretend like I'm not. I'm like, oh wow, I'm doing a podcast.
While you're doing that, why don't I go ahead and take care of my plot synopsis? Okay. All Our Yesterdays aired March 14th, 1969. Writer Jean-Lisette Arrest, writing her second episode of Star Trek. And director Marvin Chomsky. You know Noam Chomsky? Well, this is his cousin Marvin. And if you Noam Chomsky, if you're looking for that hot new philosophy, then listen to this. From the NBC press release issued February 25th, 1969. Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, and Dr. McCoy are trapped in the past by a machine just hours before a planet on which the machine is located is to explode. In All Our Yesterdays on NBC Television Network Star Trek, Friday, March 14th. Ian Wolfe guest stars as Ataz, librarian of the planet about to explode, and Mariette Hartley as Zarabeth, Girl of the Ice Age. Ooh.
Girl of the Ice Age.
That sounds like a rad movie.
That's very like Conan, but like
Zarabeth, Girl of the Ice Age.
Yeah.
Captain Kirk is transported to Old England, where he is accused of being a witch. Not actually true. Another escapee from the doomed planet tells Kirk that the machine which brought them both there cannot transport them back alive. Spock and McCoy are transported to the Ice Age and meet a girl who tells them they are doomed to finish their lives there. Spock falls in love with the girl and tries to kill McCoy as his Vulcan mind and body begin to revert in an ominous manner.
We're going to get to it. I'm bewildered as to why Spock starts to revert, but McCoy and Girl of the Ice Age don't.
Well, because humans were always that cantankerous.
Oh, I see. So we haven't really changed much in the years since an ice age.
Look, it brings up a litany of world building questions and also posits that Vulcans feel emotions always, but at some point they were unable to practice restraint because that is a genetic evolution as opposed to a learned philosophy.
Listen, I'm not actually
it is just a TV show.
I'm not actually complaining because anything that gives me the Spock moment where he gets to kiss a girl of the Ice Age and laugh, I'm in.
Finally, a Star Trek episode that dares to posit the question.
Yeah.
What if Spock was horny?
Like, I feel like you just, it just never happens.
Not once. Never. There is no famous episode of Star Trek where he has ever been horny.
Never, ever.
This one, he's willingly horny.
Willingly.
I will say that.
Willingly. Yeah, that's true. He is willingly. He's willingly horny. Yep. Yeah. Has he ever been willingly horny? This is the only time, I would say.
No, because there was the episode, there was the Cloudminders where he was like,
he is pretty willingly horny in that one.
In
a restrained way.
In a restrained way. But this one, he's like,
he's like so into her.
This one, he's like, I'm horny. And also, I'm up for eating some ribs.
Yeah.
Meat. Well, that's the key difference this week.
There are a few different implications. It's so funny. It's like in this penultimate episode of Star Trek Original Series, I have many questions about everything suddenly. Like it occurred to me, when they eat meat, I'm like, so I guess you don't eat meat.
Yeah.
Which is not, I don't know if that ever been explicitly said or noted. I mean, they're eating a lot of cubes, but could they be like what's the production piece of that? Obviously, stuff is replicated later, but so anyway, that plus the I have always been under the impression, by the way, that I think Spock has explicitly said it. If not in original series, I feel like I've seen it in other properties of Vulcans are by definition emotional and behaviorally have suppressed it.
Yes.
That's the whole vibe. So
yeah.
I think I texted you as I was watching the episode. I hadn't looked it up and I was like, this episode was written by a woman.
Oh, yeah.
And I was so right.
Yeah.
I do feel like it is the episodes written by women because that are like, what if Spock horny?
Yeah, but it was only...
but emotionally so.
It was in a subsequent development because originally it was just Spock and McCoy getting beamed to the past and they were fighting like cave people. But it was in a subsequent revision where the love interest was added. And I mean, it is hands down the best aspect of this episode for sure. Outside of the woman who's going, he's a witch.
He's a witch. Wait, you said he's accused of being a witch. Which part of that was not true?
Which part of Kirk being accused of being a witch is not true? Probably the part where Kirk is a witch.
Oh, because he is a witch. Was it the in England part? Is that what was incorrect? Yeah.
I believe the episode is trying to get us to believe that there was a parallel development.
That's what,
of the past, but also it is so nebulous,
right? Exactly,
as to where exactly we are because it is so analogous to
ours.
As These Are the Voyages, season 3 by Mark Cushman and Susan Osborne said, the time of King Charles II around that time.
Yeah.
But it never specifically states which planet we are on, so you can believe that it's Earth. You can believe that it is the Sarpedon, the planet of the week this week.
Well, I imagine it's Sarpedon because I think the implication is everyone is either made to go back in time or it has requested to be back in their own time. So a parallel.
But also, if you're making I don't know, just pulling a random example, El Monterey bean and cheese microwave burritos in the microwave, just a random example, that detail might kind of get lost. And it's only on subsequent research that you kind of find out that it's not actually that. So.
Ooh, can you say all that again?
Just a random example, if you were microwaving 3 El Monterey bean and cheese burritos. into a piece of dishware that you have.
Yeah.
Well, in the kitchenette that you have
Uh-huh.
in your apartment
Yeah.
that you're moving out of very soon.
Right.
And then you
Talking about
go
you.
back to watching the episode of Star Trek that you don't exactly have your DVDs, but you're having to watch it on another platform.
I got you.
And having
I see.
to worry about syncing up subtitles. And so your mind is kind of being a litany of other places. The details might get lost that, you're not on Earth, but you're on Sarpedon.
I thought
Just a random example.
I thought in this random example, you were
And it is random.
not you.
It's not me. No.
If someone were to be, I thought you were pulling some like beautiful yet funny and clever metaphor.
No.
You're just explaining.
Just a random example.
You just were hungry. You're just a hungry boy.
Again.
Well, sorry, not you.
I would say me. It's a random. It's
like,
random.
Just like an idea if someone were to be hungry.
Yes. If someone were to be hungry.
And just happen to step
microwaving
away.
3 El Monterey bean and cheese burritos.
Bean and cheese. No
on
meat.
a piece of dishware.
Because
the bean and cheese burritos are 5 points according to the Weight Watchers app.
Oh.
And so you can have 3 of them, 15 points, and you get 41 points a day.
That's nice. Oh, that's nice.
Random example. So, random.
Oh my gosh. Jeez.
That's a random example.
Your ability to extract story is wild.
They call me the Weaver because I'm so rich with storytelling details.
Did you know that?
They call me the Weaver? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let me talk about Star Wars.
Poetry, so if they rhyme.
Star Wars The Clone Wars, Holocron Heist, Season 2, Episode 1, as you mentioned, that you were excited for, the first episode of the second season. We're about to start cooking with gas, my bro. Even more.
Or at least thermal detonators.
Yeah. No natural gas around here. Let's see. Released October 2nd, 2009. Spooky season of 2009. Cute. Incredible. What was I dressing up for in college that year?
Well, I know. I actually know what costume you were dressed as.
Oh, yeah? Tell me.
Sexy Gungan.
You're not wrong. Actually, I think I was in Santiago, Chile. Yeah, I was. Okay, let's move on. Was I? No, I wasn't. I was the next year. I'm going to move on. No, okay. Holocron.
Would it be a Gungan de Caliente?
Sexy Gungan lady. I think it was sexy. Mujer, Gungan, sexy Gungan mujer. That's it. Okay.
Doesn't say that the Gungan is a mujer.
Lady.
Sexy Gungan lady.
Okay. Director Justin Ridge. Written by Paul Dini.
I'm Batman.
Yay! And then, of course, there's Henry Gilroy, Scott Murphy as series and supervising writers. You can feel the Dini energy all over it, in fact, I'd say. Darth Sidious hires Cad Bane. Remember Cad Bane? To break into the Jedi Temple on Coruscant and steal an ancient holocron from the archives. Maybe we delete it from the archives. Together with
Excellent point, Liam.
Together with Claudette Bounty Hunter, Kato Parasiti, and Techno Service droid Toto, who is voiced by Seth Green, Bane makes for the Jedi Library, where Ahsoka Tano is on guard duty after proving herself too reckless in action on the planet Felucia. That's a really good description, actually, of the episode.
Yeah.
So sometimes I'm like, what? And this time I was like, yeah, that's really good. That is it. And you know what? Banger.
At first I was like, oh no. But then I was like, this is a story.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because it starts out, I'd forgotten because I was like, oh, isn't this, it's a holocron heist. Like we're starting with the heist, but it starts out with a battle. Starts, so in media res. And
definitely starts like a season premiere, which is great.
Right. It's a clever little episode. Starts already, by the way, you can tell that I feel like I can tell like the animation is more fluid. Like,
oh my goodness, was the animation so much more stunning.
Ahsoka's like fighting is like it's still extremely stylistic, but it's like the way that it's flowing and moving is pretty extraordinary. Still in that tube top.
I noticed the light beams that were coming in through the troop transport.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Getting diffused by the particles that are in the air.
Oh, glorious.
Gorge.
God, it's so good. And you're right.
Animation is such hard work.
Yeah, dude. I don't do it.
These people
seems really hard.
These people work so hard in a medium that in American culture is just like, for kids.
Right.
Don't have to take it seriously.
In a medium that people are like, you know what make this better? If we made it all live action.
Photorealistic.
If we made it photorealistic and we were like, no, it's real and we can take it seriously. I fucking hate it. Yeah.
Wild. But also I did ask Heidi, my partner.
Oh, you seem mad about it.
I asked Heidi, my partner, point blank, if they made Wicked an animated movie, would you go see it? And she was like, no, none at all.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting question. Because I think Wicked in like all like most properties of Wizard of Oz have been live action. So maybe it's like going from one to the other. People, I don't know if would feel more resistant versus like, I don't know, like taking this as an animated property and being like, oh, well, we're going to go live action.
I think if the first cinematic adaptation of Wicked was animated, it would not nearly be the juggernaut. Well, depends.
I think you're right. I think you are.
It would not be the 4-quadrant hit, but it would be very much a hit. It just wouldn't be like, I went to the movies last night to see Kraven the Hunter. And I saw a family that was dressed in all green, except for one little girl that was dressed in pink. This many weeks, we're recording on December 16th, this many weeks after Wicked came out, still dressing up.
I have a question. 2 questions.
Yeah, boss.
Was that family there to see Kraven the Hunter?
Yeah, they were.
Second question. What if Kraven the Hunter had been animated?
Oh, I honestly, I think that would make me more interested in seeing it because I'd be going, interesting. Like whenever they were releasing Into the Spider-Verse, but also you attach Lord and Miller to something and I'm automatically interested because more than likely it will probably be at minimum good.
Right.
But we're not here to talk about Phil Lord and Chris Miller's terrible labor practices. We're here to talk about All Our Yesterdays versus Holocron Heist.
Holocron Heist.
First impressions, Holocron Heist, wonderful episode.
Wonderful. Like you said, it starts out thinking there is a touch of it like, oh, what kind of episode will this be? Is this another type of like battle type episode, which would be fine. But then it's actually just place setting to have a consequence of Ahsoka's actions to now put her in a place where there's action happening so that she can be part of that. Which it's a much smaller type of story. I mean, big and like there are lots of characters involved, but it's very cool because you get to really explore like Jocasta News space and like the library and the archives and that like kind of be more in the like the goings on. And then you get Seth Green doing his best Anthony Daniels impression. So
there also seems to be a sophistication to this episode. It feels different than all of season 1 immediately, not just in terms of animation, but I feel like this episode has some breathing room. Yeah. Where season 1 was much more action packed.
Sure.
Except for like brief blips and things. The pacing felt more deliberate.
Yeah.
It just felt different.
Like it trusted
Does that make sense?
It trusted itself a little more. Like it was
I think so.
You're right. Like it didn't rush. Maybe a first season episode would have been a little too frenetic. Maybe would have stuck with like the battle side of it, or would have just like immediately plopped them in there. Maybe like, yeah, I think that rings true to me. Yeah, it's also like it's funny because you just had Cad Bane in the last episode of the first season. chronologically, this is, you know how like these episodes technically chronologically are different.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters. I think the way that it is presented is the way it's presented from a story, like from a sort of like shape of show perspective. But it is really interesting to have like ended on him, start with him. So you have this type of character who's really interesting and see him from like a different perspective as well. There's a lot of bounty hunter
Wait.
action in this season.
So,
Yep.
Why do you bring up the chronology?
Oh,
Does this episode technically happen before the previous episode?
Yes, I think so.
Look it up.
Yeah, I think it was just something when I was like reviewing, I noticed it, like, you know, and like Wikipedia will list it. Let's see. Episode is chronologically preceded by Liberty on Ryloth. So I don't actually know where the Senate one is actually, like what it would, if that would actually even then be before or after whatever it would be. So
interesting, because the thematic progression is that the Senate was just invaded. Now the Jedi Temple is being invaded, which feels like a natural escalation.
Yes. Yeah. And
to me.
But I think that's why, in my mind, it doesn't really matter to me chronologically where something is, right? If thematically it's being like, there's a reason why it's thematically being put here. And it's that, yeah, while it's happening maybe at a different point, you can see like, yes, like in the building of tension of things starting to break apart. And
also, like, the way that this episode starts very deliberately feels like Filoni and company being like, here we go, here we are, we're back, season 2, bigger, better, more action, deeper stakes, more complex, people lose. Ahsoka doing yet another thing where she is following Anakin's advice, Anakin's teaching, and learning another consequence from it.
Yep.
Great. Feels like a thematic statement, even though I don't know what's going to be happening this season. It just feels like a thematic statement. Don't know if I also did write down, I wish I didn't know what happened to Ahsoka in the end.
Oh, sure.
Because it felt it felt like another piece of stuff dropping, but I don't know if that was intentional. I'm pretty sure Filoni was kind of making up the arc of what Ahsoka was doing as he went along, as opposed to having a grand design, because spoiler alert, that's usually how writing works.
Right.
You just kind of make it up as you go along, and if you're a good writer, you're able to extrapolate the details that are already there into like a coherent thesis.
I guess as someone who has watched all of this and knows what happens, I took this as just like a character development moment for her, because that I think is what's really great about it. The episode is that it does like a whole bunch of stuff at once, which is it has through character development leads us logically to a next step. You know, if this, then what kind of moment. And so just kind of isolated on its own of the like, where is Ahsoka at in her process of becoming the person she's going to become? This is an important moment. Like she made a mistake. She also made a mistake based off of like, you know, like I learned it from watching you and like is given a punishment. It's not a particularly horrifying one, but it's still, honestly, she's still like 14, right? 14, 15. And there's even a comment that Anakin makes where he's just like, I forget sometimes you were so young. And also he's a little baby too. So, but whatever. It's like when I was 16 working at a science day camp and I was like with 12 and 13-year-olds. And I was like, did you know that I'm an adult? Like we're like 3 years apart. It's like that. They're also fucking child soldiers, right? And I think there is something to that of like, you are still very young and like you never got to be a kid. You're still not getting to be a kid. And like, you're so extraordinary. And yet sometimes like I forget, you know, and I think that's really valuable.
So yeah, this feels like a repivot for the, well, not exactly a repivot. We're just what they used to do in television, which is just get us used
It's a new
again
season.
to the situation.
Yeah,
Here's what the
haven't seen you for
status quo
months.
is. Here's what the status quo is, just in case. And for new viewers, here are the characters that we're going to be following. And then a sophistication and just in terms of the patience that I feel like the storytelling is afforded. The characters feel smarter. I don't know. Not exactly smarter, but just because I mean we're coming up from the basement in terms of where the prequels were, and Clone Wars is definitely repiloting some of the characters.
Like who?
Mace Windu.
Oh. Yeah.
Mace Windu.
I do think that Mace Windu in that last season and then in this as well, I think we talked about this at like, when people talk about, they're like, Master Windu, it's like even more powerful than Master Windu. And you kind of like watch the prequels and you're like, is he that powerful? And then you watch Clone Wars and you're like, that bro is.
Yeah, because the prequels is still a lot of telling and very little showing.
Yeah.
As opposed to Clone Wars, which is better, hands down.
Yeah.
Even I, as someone that is really having to learn how to watch Clone Wars, cannot argue that even the Clone Wars movie, light years better than the kinds of storytellings that the prequels were doing. Good ideas on paper, execution extremely lacking.
Sure. But, well, yeah. Well, that's just because of, I don't know, Stinky the Hutt.
You mean Jeremy Allen White?
I do mean Jeremy Allen White. More Jeremys everywhere.
Slicking that hair back. Playing Stinky. Slicking that hair back.
Stinky.
Yeah, sexy little Hutt. What a weird thing. What a weird thing. Anyways, so yeah, this week's episode of Star Wars, pretty darn good. First canon mention of the holocron.
Yeah. It is. And it's fun to know that there's just like a little room where they're all just like nestled in there and then you could just go boop, boop, and they just go pop out.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
That's it.
That's it.
There you go.
Why am I struggling for depth of topic?
There's not much thematically to go on.
Oh, sure. Okay.
And it's not exactly a classic heist episode because a heist has a very specific formula where the heist, you plan out the heist, you lay out the rules, and the rules usually go wrong.
Right.
Because we're also not rooting for the people that are heisting. We are rooting for our heroes to stop the heist.
Well, unless
what goes on is
Ocean's 11.
Great movie.
Actually, I think a lot of the times we're rooting for the heisters. Oh, in this case, we're not.
In this episode, we're not.
I got you. I see.
But very often, we are rooting for the heisters. Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, Ocean's 13. Shoot, even Ocean's 8.
Oh, definitely Ocean's 8. A fantastic film. You're right.
I really enjoyed that movie.
Thank you.
One of the top 5 film going experiences in my life. Honest to God.
Really? Just fun for you?
Yes, because I was in upstate New York. I had just gone to the Star Trek original series set tour. That took about an hour, but I was still in upstate New York. I was staying the night. I was like, what is there to do? I know what I love to do. Go watch a movie.
Yeah.
Went to a tourist town that had a one-screen theater. It's the only movie theater within 30 minutes.
Amazing.
And you could feel the energy because people were just excited to watch a movie. And the energy was palpable. And that screening of Ocean's 8 was awesome. And then afterwards, I talked with the theater owner for like 30 minutes or so. And they were like, yeah, the theater just closes in the winter because it's too cold. And it just amazing. It was 100-year-old theater.
This feels like an argument for not having so many options available to you all the time. Like, what does it mean to have like a limited availability?
It's complex, right? Because with the greater democracy of these things, you get more voices. But also, that means you have to scream even louder. And then what inevitably happens whenever things get curated is that those voices are usually the first to get eliminated because racism and sexism and misogyny and all of those things.
Ooh, say it to me more sexily.
Racism.
Is that your sexy?
Misogyny.
Oh boy. Yikes. Sounds like a horny Spock to me.
Speaking of horny Spock, that's probably a good transition point to all our yesterdays.
Oh god, I'm so good at these segues.
You are great at these segues. Speaking of standing on your own 2 feet and rolling along, how do you think that this episode rolled along?
I also really liked it. I believe I texted you.
You did. That's true.
I should be honest. I should have been honest with everybody to start with. I'm a little sleepy. I
Great.
stayed up trying to finish this like work assessment thing and to try to get a job. And I wanted it to be really good. And I spent a lot of time, too much time, and I'm a sleepy boy.
Did a great job.
So thank you. Yeah. Because of an NDA, I can't even, like, you just have to take my word for it. I can't. I'll let everybody know if I got a new job. So
just if you see Aspen's name pop up on Disney Plus, don't be surprised. This is where you heard it first.
Imagine. No, it'll probably just be one of those stupid things on LinkedIn where it's like, congratulate Aspen on their new work job. And I'll be like, don't congratulate me on my new capitalistic venture.
Well, speaking of congratulating well-loved characters for new achievements, so too does Spock achieve a new achievement this week in accessing a different part of their emotional abilities.
Yeah, it's true. I texted you. I said, I wish this were the finale of the series. Like, I do feel like there is something very emotionally satisfying about the episode, like a great exploration of character, like putting everybody into individual situations that are very, like, the stakes are really high and they get to explore different pieces of themselves. I like the separation of Kirk from Spock and McCoy. So Spock and McCoy have to be the ones together.
A very rare pairing of just Spock and McCoy.
Right.
And I specifically wrote this down because McCoy never really gets his own episode. The closest that we get is For the World is Hollow and I Have Touched the Sky.
Yes.
Where McCoy is dying.
Yes.
Like, he falls in love. He's like, I think I'm going to stay here. Ends up not staying there. But that, in terms of a McCoy-focused episode, that's it.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was, but DeForest Kelley was just singing for me.
Oh, my God.
Spock is a much showier role.
Yes.
Kirk is obviously, he's the lead of the darn thing. William Shatner creates the archetype of what a captain is.
Yeah.
In the popular consciousness, period.
A real swanky dude.
Real swanky dude. And then McCoy is doing a lot of work over here being like, which it's always satisfying.
It is.
I love watching McCoy be cantankerous, which is very often. And also, he cares passionately about things. He cares passionately about his friends, even though he is very racist against Spock. But he loves Spock dearly.
He does love Spock. He loves Spock and he respects him greatly.
And he's extremely concerned about Spock this week.
Yeah. And Spock is extremely concerned about him because they go into this ice age, and because he's human versus Spock's Vulcan, he starts going into hypothermia and almost dies. And you could tell how worried Spock is in his Vulcan way about him. Just a very strong, like, I'm glad. I actually did really like the Ice Girl character. I really liked her. I don't know. Sometimes the
Zarabeth, Girl of the Ice Age.
Yeah, Zarabeth, Girl of the Ice Age. Like, sometimes, we say this, it happens a lot. Like, the guest stars can sometimes make something. And I do feel like she just had this sense about her. It was deeply calming.
Yes.
I thought it was just like it's like one of those lovely little performances. So I don't hate that she's there. I would have loved even more Spock McCoy, though. I mean, I could have sat with Spock and McCoy longer than I sat with, like, Kirk trying to argue that he wasn't a witch. But like you said, I could watch that lady who was like, "You're a witch." I could watch her for an hour.
You're talking about Mariette Hartley, who appeared on the Rockford Files, appeared with James Garner in a series of Polaroid TV commercials.
Yeah. She was great.
This, according to These Are the Voyages season 3 by Mark Cushman and Susan Osborne, she did like 300 of those commercials, and then won an Emmy
for the
for a 2-part
commercials.
episode of The Incredible Hulk.
Great. See, that's a hero. A real
And
human being.
And then was also cast in subsequent Gene Roddenberry pilot, Genesis 2.
Yeah, you can again, you can know a good performance, right?
Truly.
And there's a lot of emotion, a lot of that sort of held back, but still overflow. If that makes any sense. I that's that kind of restrained adoration and So yeah, I'm with you. I'm very pro McCoy. I love Bones with every bit of me, and his cantankerous nature. The fact that when he has those moments of breaking, where it's he's deeply emotional or worried or quiet, they sing that much more because of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's just a deeply authentic character.
Yes.
And so I think any time that there's the opportunity for that, it feels so satisfying, and I would take that all the time, so
Agreed. And then the relationship between Spock and Zarabeth and Spock's eventual turning from the logical character that he is into someone that is a little bit less inhibited. And then the note that the episode ends on, because it comes upon originally, there was going to be originally the episode was going to end with Zarabeth staying in the past, because if she came back, she would get old fast, and she didn't want to get old.
Okay.
And so luckily Fred Freiberger at the very last minute was invented their molecules are a thing.
Right.
Which is
fine.
Also a wild conceit, but also I'm cool, great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And also that's the conceit of why Spock is getting his emotions back, because the molecules are getting used to the past or something like that.
Well,
and that's our ticking clock. It's science fiction gobbledygook in order to explore this thing. Great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It gets a little muddy because it's they weren't prepared, and yeah.
Yes. Because we got Mr. Atoz.
Yes, Atoz, who is yes.
The Librarian.
Actually, as we're talking about it, I don't usually get so caught up on world building, but the world building of this episode is absolutely muddy and flummoxed.
It's really sweaty. It's really, really sweaty. And all of the I don't jive with this episode nearly as much as you do, because about half of the episode, maybe 5/8 of the episode, is pretty sweaty in terms of setup.
Yeah.
And in terms of the Kirk stuff, which the Kirk stuff is fine, but that's what it is. And then we got this 3/8 of stuff over here where Spock is falling in love and losing his ability to hold on to his emotional control. And I'm that's the juice. That's not exactly what the episode is about, or else it would be a little bit more well constructed.
Let me try.
Here we go.
So they land on this planet because they're its star is going to supernova.
Yeah. Already a bit sweaty. They're cutting it a bit close by landing on a planet, and the star is about to go nova.
Right.
Pretty sweaty.
It's pretty sweaty. But they get there, and they end up in this library with this guy, but there's 2 replications of him. There's some replicants, but here's a real guy. It's a little creepy. It makes for some creepy Twilight Zone-y kind of things. Mm-hmm. People aren't there, and they just start, and they're presumably they've already left, and they're oh, okay, so we'll just look around at the stuff in the library.
Okay.
Even though everything's about to nova.
Again, the sun is famously a very powerful thing, is about to blow up.
And they're just looking at the microfiche, doing their thing. And then while Kirk is looking at their equivalent of the medieval England or whatever, he pops in and he pops into that space. Okay.
Well, he hears a lady
Oh,
screaming.
he hears a lady screaming. And that's why he runs in to help, because that's his vibe.
Yeah.
So he runs through the doorway, ends up in this space. So
that's Kirk's vibe. He
Kirk's
hears a woman screaming. He goes,
He goes,
an opportunity.
Yes. So let's just talk about his for a second.
Here we go.
So he's back there.
All right.
And again, he's hearing their voices. They're trying to get to, so he's accused of being a witch.
Oh. And also, just to paint the picture for folks that are playing at home edition, this is well into the first act. So we've had the teaser where the act out was, so you're a librarian. Bah. There we go. Play the credits. And then act one is basically explaining what the information center is, which is a library, which fun piece of knowledge. Jean-Lisette Arrest, the writer of this episode, was a librarian at UCLA. Her first episode was the wonderful "Is There in Truth No Beauty?" Remember the episode with the Medusan?
I love that episode.
A dynamite episode. In this episode, she was pitching something else.
Okay.
Could tell that it wasn't going to go to script. And then she was like, what if there was an episode at a library? And they were like, great, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Which I'm for.
We love information services.
I'm for it. I too am also writing a screenplay about a attractive podcaster that looks at a phone a lot of the time.
Yeah, man. Just write what you know.
Write what you know.
Medieval England, libraries. He's there. I'm going to skip over the stuff. He ends up in jail. And the thing about it is that there's a magistrate there. And it turns out that the magistrate is also from that like present time, right? Yes. Okay. So that's the thing.
Here we go.
Just put a pin in that.
Putting a pin in it.
And then
there's a magistrate. Hold on. Let me write it down in the footnotes.
And then on the
there's
other
a magistrate.
Side, the like Spock McCoy thing is that they end up, because they were looking at ice, they end up in the Ice Age and they run into this girl.
Well, because they saw that Kirk went through. What's going on? They saw that Kirk went through. Naturally, their boyfriend goes through the thing. They be like, no, he's our boyfriend. No one else gets our boyfriend. And they very territorially go chase for their boyfriend because they don't want to share. Even though it is a polycule. So they very much are territorial.
But disfortunatamente, they have been looking at ice. So, ice. That's how it works. You look at what you look at. You hold it in your brain, you go through it, right? Mm-hmm. So they end up, that's where they meet Ice Age girl, right? This is where they meet her. She says to them,
Zarabeth girl of
the Ice Age, that she was sent there as punishment to be alone. So this is I can't remember.
Because she seems pretty nice.
Yeah, I think it was like a rebellion thing. I don't know.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. But the point here,
the episode grabs you by the shoulders and goes, don't
worry about it. Okay, because this is what I'm trying to get to.
Here we go.
This tool has been used to send her to a prison, effectively, a solitary confinement in the middle of the ice, right?
Yes.
So that's how that's happened. Yes. The magistrate is in this other time. Did the same thing happen for him? Presumably, everybody else has left the planet.
No, the magistrate went back in time because the magistrate wanted to live in pure hedonism, I assume.
So he just made that
because he's talking like this, that he wants power. And so he's a magistrate and he's got that long hair and he's got a hat and he seems like he's living his best life.
But he's also like, I guess the other thing is like, is this the actual past? Like, is it the actual past? So I guess
because then it begs a question because it's kind of established that these are like books.
Yeah.
But also it is time travel.
Okay.
Now, ultimately.
Okay.
Ultimately, rules like this aren't very important if the thematic meat that you're chewing on
is good enough.
Is quite rich.
I'm usually like that. But right now I feel preoccupied because I don't think it is.
It's pretty sweaty because not enough real estate, I feel, is dedicated to Spock exploring this.
Yes.
There is a lot of setup for a very juicy thing that ultimately gets happening very late in
Very
the
late.
episode. You
Very
could have
late.
built a stronger episode if you had gotten rid of the rest of the gobbledygook.
Yeah.
And instead, you could have just stranded our characters on an ice planet
Right.
that has some gobbledygook in the atmosphere that interferes with Vulcans and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, make it about what it's actually about.
Yeah.
Like, Kirk's storyline is boring in this. Like, I don't care that he's there and then gets put in this prison without a lot of stakes.
There could be something, especially post-McCarthyism, that could be rich explored in which trials and
right. If you were going to be,
it's just a different
stories.
Perspective, but that's
that's not what they did. So, because,
or like you make that a comedic B plot,
yeah.
And they don't, and also this is kind of like Diet City on the Edge of Forever.
Yeah, that's true. Which is
just to go with a metaphor again. This is your parents telling you that we have City at the Edge of Forever at home.
And it's
and you're like
it's
the same City on the Edge of Forever flavor.
Yeah.
Like, this has been through the processor too many times.
Oh my God. I remember City on the Edge of Forever.
An episode that was brave enough to ask the question, what if there was a city on the edge of forever?
More brave or less brave than what if there was a planet that was one big city?
I'm sorry. Slow down.
The whole planet is one big city. Wait, okay, Kenny, let me go. Okay, so can you just, I know it shouldn't matter because it's sweaty. I know it isn't the point.
It's very sweating.
Can you just answer?
We very rarely do this.
Can you just answer the question for me?
Plot mechanic. If the planet was one big city?
Can you answer the question for me of everybody who's on this planet, it's about to supernova. So they've all escaped from the planet by going back or forward in time. That's right?
Well,
so that
presumably back
in time.
Because if they went forward in time, they're going to have a bad time.
Imagine they're like looking through pictures and they're like, oh, an explosion.
Interesting. What I'm feeling from these future vibes is a lot of vacuum.
Right.
This quite literally sucks.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, because you're funny. Yeah, I mean, like, it's...
My vacuum drop?
Did
you like my vacuum drop?
You hoovered it up. Yeah. Okay, so presumably everybody went into the library. Listen!
Okay,
they all went into the library.
Yes. Here we go.
And they opened a book and they said, they went to their microfiche and they said, that's where I want to live.
I want to live in Moby Dick.
Right. But like their equivalent. Like they all did that. They all did that.
All of them.
Wild. You know, I don't think the episode did a good enough job, despite all the time it's spent on the like, this is the thing. And that library. They don't do enough.
A Twilight Zonian conceit, one of the most famous episodes of Twilight Zone, about a man who is obsessed with books and a library. And these people literally, Mr. Adhaz is like, not too much on recent history. They were kind of more focused on the past.
Right.
There are themes to be explored about being lost within past history, not looking around at what your present is. Becoming lost within these other things without looking around at what is going on. But it's just too thematically muddled.
It's too much. Like there is never clarification. There was never for me a clarification. And I was not heating Monterey Jack burritos with cheese for 3 at a time on my Fiestaware. I was not doing that. I was watching.
El Monterey. Bean and cheese, burritos, microwave those, put them in the microwave for 3.5-4 minutes. You got it good. 4 minutes, you might be a little bit too hot. Right. 3.5 minutes might actually be just the right temperature. But you might still get a little bit cold. But again, just a random example.
I was not doing that. I was paying attention.
Right.
And I feel like it's still because it was like, it never to me, it like didn't until halfway through like truly strike me that it was like actually going into the past as opposed to like going into a simulation of a past. Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was just weirdly like, I was like, maybe that also like messed with the stakes for me.
Because the episode didn't start
Yeah.
until pretty darn late. And
Yeah.
also, by this point, they knew that they were canceled. Star Trek knew that it was canceled.
Well,
So they're like, let's just kind of get this. Could it have been better? Sure. But I think they were more focused on like, everyone was pretty sad.
Yeah.
Although they do indicate that because this episode felt Spock focused, the mood on set was a little bit more positive
oh yeah.
because it's just different. Spock,
Yeah.
because Leonard Nimoy plays Spock a very specific way, and because he was doing something different, the mood on set just felt different.
We love him.
But also, like, the tenor of things is, yeah, they're probably not too terribly worried about thematic cohesion at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
But also, like, we've had some recent episodes that were kind of great. Cloudminders, Way to Eden, although Way to Eden, famously, not a great episode.
I mean, I think I liked this more than a lot we've gotten lately, which is why I think I'm going to give it more props. But now that we're talking it through,
in the general season 3-ness, All Our Yesterdays is slightly above average compared to like the big swath of episodes where we were just like, oh, what a slog. As opposed to like, again, Cloudminders, hot app. Way to Eden, hot app. Requiem for Methuselah, fun app. Lights of Zatar, interesting app. Savage Curtain, sleepy. Take a nap through that one.
So going back to Star Wars, which I won't also
The Clone Wars?
The Clone Wars. I won't detail every plot point of that. But I think it is an interesting sort of like going back to it. Another kind of very focused story. Yeah.
Two commonalities, two episodes with librarians.
You're right. There are 2 libraries. And
Show me where I'm wrong, counselor.
Oh, I will let it pass. You are free to
Not only that, but librarians that get into fights.
That's true. Okay, actually, we're not talking about Jocasta Nu.
And also geriatric librarians that get into fights.
There was, do you remember that? You remember that part where he tries to, in the Star Trek episode, he tries to send him back through. He tries to send Kirk back through by like knocking him out and then putting him on like one of those like library like roller carts and then tries to roll him.
You love to see it.
It was fantastic.
You do love to see it.
But yeah, but Jocasta Nu, our baddest bitch who clearly was with Dooku, clearly had some things going on. We love a bitch who's like trusts her archives so much that she's just like, if it's not there, it's not there. You know, that's our Jocasta Nu. Yeah, she is. They're both old, and so which librarian's better? Go.
Jocasta Nu.
Thank you. You were right. If you hadn't been, we would have fought.
Oh, Mr. Ataz has a better name.
No.
Yeah.
No.
His name is Mr. A to Z.
Her name is Mrs. Jocasta.
Ataz, Aspen. It's clever.
I didn't notice that, so I did to acknowledge it
immediately.
Okay, well, did you also notice that Jocasta is a cool name and Nu is also a cool name? And when you put them together. And she's a Jedi. I like the idea that much like the regular, like the Air Force, it's like you might be in the Air Force, the military, but you're like, you have a specific job, like you're like a mechanic or you're like a coder or something. And like, I like the idea that she's a Jedi and she's like, but I'm a librarian. And the librarian part comes first.
Number 1, it's pronounced librarian. Number 2, so the shapeshifter.
Yeah.
We're talking about sweaty mechanics with the Star Trek episode. Sweaty mechanic.
Yeah.
Here in the Star Wars episode, we got a shapeshifter.
Me too.
A shape that shifts. They shift shape. That's what they do.
You ship
That's
up.
what they
you shape up. You shape up and you ship out.
And so we got Cato Parasiti here, shape-shifting into Jocasta Nu. Now, however, we see that our resident ship shaper is able to materialize clothes as well. Now, do we do not see a scene where Cato Parasitti grabs a lightsaber from Jocasta Nu.
Oh, I like the implications.
But Cato Parasitti is able to pulls out a lightsaber and gets into a lightsaber fight with Ahsoka Tano, famous tube top wearer. But then at some point, obviously you've already gone with me. She synthesized a lightsaber out of nowhere, but then Ahsoka Tano disarms her.
Yep.
The lightsaber goes across the way.
Yeah.
And then our shapeshifter returns to their original shape. What happens to that portion of Cato Parasitti? Is that just a separate piece of matter? What are the implications? Is that a real lightsaber? Is that just something that resists a lightsaber? What are the rules on resisting a lightsaber? Is she able to synthesize your own magnetism? What does this mean?
Kenny, I think I'm going to have to let you down by not going along with your bit. I think she probably just swiped Jocasta Nu's lightsaber.
Or it's just TV.
Oh, you just got a little fan in your hand?
Yeah, I got a little fan.
Yeah, can you do that? Can you dramatically pop it for me? No, there it is.
Wait.
There it is. Yeah.
I can't.
Oh.
Because I can't.
Oh.
This is not good podcasting.
No, I think this is great podcast. It's good.
No, I can't.
You need to get with I think you need to.
Oh.
You almost had it, buddy. Oh my God. Okay, hey. Larry, Curly, and Mo. Let's go. Yeah, I your questions are more interesting than my answer.
Certainly, as opposed to the Star Trek where the sweaty mechanics are a little bit more evident, as opposed to this one where the episode was like, don't worry about it.
Because I think
just go with it. The more interesting implications that the Jedi temple is pregnable to assault.
Apparently, actually fairly easily. This is our second shapeshifter, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other one was in Attack of the Clones. And so presumably there are other shapeshifters that are using it for ill. And so if they can just get right in, I guess, okay, I will say, okay, I'm going to give it some credit, some sort of plot or world building credit.
Okay.
Cad Bane kills a Jedi, which is not an easy thing to do. But
this goes to this notion as opposed to I think in popular culture versus what Filoni is working very hard to do. Filoni, as we've heard in the Filoni Zone so many times, Filoni is making active efforts to show that the Jedi are not superheroes. But in the collective consciousness, and as we saw in the 2D Clone Wars, the Jedi are superheroes.
Right. It's just...
In this one, the Jedi are just dudes.
They are kind of being dudes. I mean, but the plan is clever because I think the implication is that the shapeshifter, the shape-up shipper, but she has to maybe touch the body to be able to. Yes. So it's that she had to get to a Jedi first to be able to even turn into a Jedi to be able to get into the space at all. Mm-hmm. So I think there are a couple of barriers, and it's a testament to Cad Bane being very scary and very talented as a bounty hunter that actually does get them to that point that they might not have expected. Because they're X-Men also, you can also presume that the Jedi are well, no one could ever get us, right? We're Jedi, right? So it's doing what you're saying. I think a question that also pops up is the fact that apparently you can access the internal security systems and blueprints from the computers in the library. Now, that is a security risk. I don't care that it's a closed system. Apparently, anybody can just walk in if they're a shapeshifter. It's imagine your local library and you could be able to hop onto that computer and then get all the personal files of everybody just because you hopped in.
It is... So this gets into who are the Jedi and what are the Jedi representing, because the Jedi are more representative of religion versus the military force that they have become.
I think
it's a religion. Anyone should be able to walk in and be able to access anything.
But period. I don't think that's what you. I think it has to be only Jedi can access that space.
Sure, that's correct. Yes,
right.
Which then it begs larger questions of then why are only Jedi allowed in the temple. Is it really that difficult? And I guess it's the aristocratic
Right.
notions of what Jedi have become, because it's about what your blood is.
Sure.
It's a very specific thing. It's not democratized.
Which, by the way, they're about to go into in the next episode. It's about
Spoilers.
Force-sensitive children.
Spoilers. Well,
Yeah.
no, because they stole the holocron. In the end of the episode is it's a list of kids with midi-chlorian rich blood, which is eerie.
Oh, speaking of implications, getting into the idea of like, just getting into like they're like, the way that the Jedi work is they're like, hey, you got midichlorian rich child blood. Can we just take your baby? And they're like, well, okay, take him to become a monk, a space cop monk, I don't know. It's I think you can presume that they actually have a pretty good system. It's just that these two bounty hunters, and especially Cad Bane, are clever. And Cad Bane actually kind of does pull off a heist move of, if there's a structure to a heist, they do have the different parts to it. And they're like, a heist always has a surprise at the end, right? And from the perspective of the people who are like, don't want the heist to happen, it was funny to like, it's seeing it from this perspective, like
they could
there's
not
always
fathom that anyone would ever want to go to holocrons.
Exactly. They thought they want to get into the communication space. He takes advantage of that. So the surprise of the heist, because there's always a magic trick, is that the little thing that he put inside of his little droid Toto, Seth Green, is a bomb. And so his like real magic trick is, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that you think this is what we're doing, and I'm going to send a bomb into you to blow you up. And the only reason they survive is because they're fucking Jedi, and they're like, wait, bomb, right? So
Bomb.
it still gets to have the heist surprise. And then, and he walks out with the thing that they never would have expected.
Yeah.
But why wouldn't they? I mean, well, probably because they're like, because they even say it. They're like, only a Jedi can figure that out. And it's just like, well, yikesy poo.
Yikesy poo. Yikesy poo indeed.
Cad Bane's pretty cool. I think I got a little annoyed when he showed up in live action, whatever. I don't know.
Boba Fett?
It was Boba Fett. And I was just like, I think I said this before. I was like, don't. Like, Cad Bane is, he's a real adversary, which is very cool.
Well, what other characters do you like?
I like Ahsoka. I like, who I didn't like? Toto. Are you trying to set me up for I starship it?
Don't you take my Ewok glider and clip it. Don't you take my red shirt buddy and nip it. If you spill the tea, I'm gonna sip it. I starship it.
Aspen, what the heck are we doing today?
It's gonna pick our favorite starships that go zoom, zoom, zoom. And also our favorite ships that are in the stars. That are people loving each other. They don't have to fly. They don't have to fly.
Certainly. They do not have to fly. Aspen, have you done your work for the week? Or shall I go first?
I do have a ship. I do have a ship.
Who's your ship?
Well, the starship here is so when the episodes start, the Star Wars Clone Wars episode starts, it's part of this battle. So mine is, and there are there's, I think a lot of the ships we've already named, like a lot of the, gunner ships and stuff, but there's this one that's like part of the banking clan, and it's called the Munificent Class Star Frigate. It's the banking clan frigate.
Whoa.
And I can
Star Frigate.
I can show you what it looks like, because it is rad to me. They just kind of show up in the episode.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
so
I'm looking at it. What a great,
it's
great.
The shape of it, it's the banking clan, it's a separatist ship. It almost has a I don't know. It feels very, for them being all banking clanish, it feels very piratey to me. The shape of it, and it's very sharp, and the way that they're not sails, they're not scales either. What's the word I'm looking for? The stuff on the sides, they kind of go to these sharp edges. I don't know. It's just
it's like
cool.
planks that are sticking out.
Yeah, it's like planks sticking out. The tiles on the side of the ship. There. I don't know. It's just a very sharp kind of guy, and I like him.
I like it.
That's fine.
What a great pull, the Munificent class star frigate. And luckily that is not mine.
Yeah.
Because mine are Mr. Atos's information discs.
Cute, because they can transport you.
They certainly can.
I'm surprised neither of us
information.
picked the book thing that he tried to send Kirk through with. Shoom. That would have been a good one.
That would have been great, but no, minus the information discs. I've always said reading a good book is a gateway to a million different universes, and none more so literally than here with Mr. Atos's information discs.
You sure do say that all the time.
I say that. It's crazy how much that I say.
God, it's
And reading a good book is a gateway to a million different universes.
I just like, yeah, I gotta thank you for your service.
Speaking of thank you for your service, Aspen, what ship is for you this week?
My ship. My romantic ship. Ugh, I want to go with the boring one.
Do it.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
I want to
It's
go
a
with
good one.
Spock and Ice Girl. I love it.
Spock and Zarabeth.
Spock and Zarabeth, girl of the Ice Age. He was gonna fucking give it all up for her.
Yeah.
He was gonna.
McCoy clocked it.
He immediately, McCoy was like, my bro, my dude, my sweet boy, you are falling hard for her. And he like kisses her at one point, and it's just like.
He kisses her, and not only that, it's accompanied with a smile.
He smiles.
And it's a smile of relief.
It like makes every time Spock's smiles are like I think Leonard Nimoy, not to sound like a creepazoid, but like part of it could be because he like just doesn't get to do it a lot. There's just something like I understand people being so attracted to Leonard Nimoy. Like there's something so beautiful, like this sort of like the joy of the kiss and the connection. And I think it just shows up. Yeah.
One of the running themes in doing the research through these the voyages is they talk about Nimoy being a little bit intense.
Yeah.
But pretty darn nice.
Yeah.
And he's intense. And they're always like, he's intense because like he's having to live with no emotion.
Yeah.
Frequently.
Right.
So that can lead to an environment that feels weird.
Yeah, for sure.
And so every time that he does get to play like this, it's always coupled with like Spock feeling some sort of, well, it's not always, like in the Naked Time where he's having all of those emotions, and it's quite torturous, but
like in this side of paradise he hangs from a tree.
He does.
Like a sweet monkey boy.
And in this one gets its own City on the Edge of Forever kind of ending where, I mean, Zarabeth is dead. Yeah. Zarabeth is dead because it's 5,000 years ago, and Spock has a last line that indicates that much because he's returned to his logic. But it's that bittersweet ending that Star Trek can be so good at. Yeah.
It is pretty devastating. I mean, again, if they'd spent more time with it, the loneliness, like of her solitude and just knowing that she's going to die alone, like horrifying, you know?
Yeah.
I think if I were her, I'd just go back and just die with my love, my life or something. But I guess she probably was like, I don't want to make you deal with that. She could have gone back and been like, fix me. I don't know.
I mean, McCoy has pulled off greater miracles in a shorter amount of time, yes?
Yeah.
Goodness. My ship of the week is Cad Bane and Cato Paracity.
Cute. I like that one.
A very queer-friendly relationship because Cato is femme-presenting, but also gender is completely dependent on how they are wanting to present themselves. They can be anything, and Cad Bane strikes me as someone that can be very hard to pin down because by the nature of his profession, he lives a dangerous life. And here's Cato Paracity, who, I'm not saying that it's a good relationship, but Cato is willing to change to whatever the needs of Cad Bane could be.
Wow. Yeah. I like the queer representation.
That's why Clone Wars is truly a queer first show.
Yeah, I would say so. That's a good one. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Solid ships all around.
Solid ships all around. Solid analysis all around. Aspen, what a genius. Kenny, great job yet again. But
my God.
We can't just keep patting ourselves on the back for the great job that we've done. We got to buckle down and come to the primary conceit of the Trek Wars podcast. Answer the question, once and for all, which is better, Star Trek or Star Wars, by ranking both of these episodes of these franchises. Again, the episode All Our Yesterdays, the penultimate episode of Star Trek, the original series versus Holocron Heist, Season 2, Episode 1 of Star Wars, The Clone Wars. I will go first. I will rank All Our Yesterdays a 6. I'm kind of disappointed too because the Spock Zarabeth stuff is so strong, but it's just too little in an episode that has a lot of flab, and it's so close to being like a great ep. It just needed a couple more drafts, but it's not there.
A lot of flab.
A lot of flab.
Fat phobic.
It is fat phobic. I'm scared. I'm scared. Anytime that I see a person, a person of size, I run away.
This is very fair. Not that part.
Fat phobia is always justified.
Not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. I'm going to be a little nicer because I loved that piece so much. And I thought it was very creative. I think I'm going to go like a 6.8.
Ooh, you do love to see a charitable rating.
Yeah. Yeah. It is for charity.
It is for charity. Which means that All Our Yesterdays comes to a robust 6.4, but it's still anyone's game. As we go over to Holocron Heist, I'll give this one a 7.8. There was just something, just like your favorite film, Tenet. There was just something about the vibes that I was very much, for lack of another term, vibing with this week. Perhaps it was the more deliberate pacing. It wasn't rushing to get to the next set piece. There was some delightful tension. I just really enjoyed it, even if it was pretty straightforward and there wasn't that much thematic meat to chew on in comparison to, well, All Our Yesterdays doesn't really have much thematic meat to chew on either.
Unfortunately.
But I just find like Holocron Heist, more fun vibes.
Yeah. I'll do 7.5.
Interesting.
Yeah. Space to grow. Space.
Well, speaking of space to grow, there is no more growth that is going to be happening here because we have come to the decisive vote. All Our Yesterdays 6.4 versus Holocron Heist robust 7.65, which means, Aspen, you must be glad because Star Wars wins the week.
Yeah. Woo. Wow.
How do you feel, Aspen?
Do you see the light coming in? It's so pretty. Like, it's just a really gentle afternoon light. Like 2:40 in the afternoon.
Well, it's 4:40 in the afternoon here in Austin, Texas, which means that the sun is about to set, and so too is the sun about to set on this episode of Trek Wars. But not before we remind you, you can get in touch with us via social media, either on Instagram or Blue Sky at Trek Wars Pod. Additionally, you can just shoot us an email, trekwarspod@gmail.com. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, you can reach out to us like our correspondence at the beginning of the episode through Patreon, patreon.com/Trek Wars Pod, where for $5 a month, you can help us keep the lights on, pay our bills, shoot us some messages, and for $1 a month, we'll just read your dang name on the air because that's the kind of Patreon that we are. And you too could join the fine auspices of fine folks such as Timbo DeSosa, Heidi Rogers, Kevin Miller, Arizona Mark, Austin Aaron, Baobab Cactus, and lastly, but certainly not leastly, Joel T. Partner, who composed our I Starship theme song and sent us some correspondence and let me know that I posted the wrong episode whenever I dropped the Patreon. Our theme song was composed by Mr. Tosin Awofeso. You can find more links to his work in the show notes, so click on the show notes and listen to the rest of his work. You can find Aspen in a litany of things in Los Angeles. You're in so many shows.
I might be, though. We'll see. We'll see.
I'm very excited for you. You can find me on Letterboxd. That's where I'm most active, and the Trek Wars Blue Sky is also where I am most active. Yeah.
Yay.
Anything else,
Yay.
Aspen?
No, that's very nice of you to say all those things.
Well, they're all true because I love you so dang much.
I love you. Thanks for hanging out with me.
You're so welcome. Aspen, may the force be with you, and live long and prosper.